The day before he got arrested, my boyfriend asked me to marry him. He gave me a ring that he bought for 75 cents. I didn't say no because I did not have the heart to make him sad. But I told him that I would on 2 conditions. Number 1, that he stopped smoking weed for a month, and number 2, that he gets his injection every month. He said that he could do that he would. And then after he called his mother and left her an excited voicemail to tell her that he was getting married, he went and got stoned. He lied to me. I tried to take my bag and walk out of his life at least 3 times, but he ran after me, and each time I returned. I was pained by the disappointment of my unfulfilled hopes, because I wanted to believe that he would get better, and he could if he really wanted to, if he really loved me. And I did not want to believe that he will never quit smoking weed, that he will go in and out of prison and hospital his entire life until he either gets killed or locked up for good. He always asked me to stay over, but I never did. Yesterday we were lying in bed together. His face was next to my ear. I could hear him breathing and snoring, and the sound has become comforting and not annoying. And the last thing he said to me before falling asleep was, "Don't worry, I got you." Yesterday when I got up and got dressed and walked out of his apartment slamming the door, I walked out with bad thoughts. That the relationship is hopeless and I should really discontinue this lazy, dysfunctional lifestyle before it swallows me. I also felt used for wasting my time while he did his laundry, while he hung out with his friends, used for washing his dirty feet in the bathtub and scrubbing his arms and legs with soap, but I didn't know that I was leaving his apartment for the last time. Today he didn't call and I wondered why. Every now and then I took out my phone and glanced at it, nothing. Then at 5:30, Luke called. "Are you with Sergey?" I asked. He apologized that he had to tell me whatever he had to tell me and that he didn't call sooner. He said Sergey got arrested around 11 in the morning. He crashed the car. Police chased him. They were going to use their taser gun. They threw him on the ground. They handcuffed him. It was really sad, Luke said several times. Luke was there and he saw it. Why did he say that it was sad? Did Sergey get hurt? I went to the police department and the officer in the window knew right away what I was talking about, like it was the most interesting thing that had happened that day. "He will be put away for a long time," the officer said to me, sadistically taking pleasure in my and Sergey's misfortune. Sergey has a strange obsession with doing laundry, although he doesn't always have the money for the laundry machine or remember where his laundry detergent is. I have a feeling that Sergey might be washing clean clothes because he might believe them to be cursed by someone's bad thoughts. Otherwise, I have no idea why he always has so much clothes soaking in his bathtub.
Did you wash that already?
Yeah, I already scrubbed the dub.
I have a feeling that instead of truly scrubbing them, he just leaves them in his bathtub for days and then simply wrings them out and piles them on the rod that the shower curtain hangs on, one item on top of the other, and nothing dries there. And Sergey says he irons every item to make it dry, or just forgets about it.
Doesn't have money for the laundry machine because he spends all his money on weed. It's ridiculous.
I told him that the only person I know who actually still does laundry by hand is my grandmother. He told me that he learned to wring out clothes when he was in prison.
So people in jail did it like that?
That's how they did it, yeah.
Like they wash their clothes by hand?
Yeah. Their underwear, their socks, their whites especially.
Because otherwise it would get lost?
Otherwise they'd either get lost or they would not have any clothes or...
Okay.
Later, when I asked Sergey about what happened, he told me he had a fight or flight moment when the policeman pulled him over for turning right on red and aimed a taser at his eyes. The laser light from the taser fell on Sergey's eyes and he became terrified that he was about to get killed or would go blind. "If he had aimed at my legs, I wouldn't have taken off," Sergey said. He didn't have any weapons or drugs or anything illegal in the car. He had no logical reason to flee. He was just afraid. After he crashed the car into a bush, he got out and ran home because he thought he'd be safe inside his house. They caught up with him between the two double doors and threw him around like a rag doll, he said. There were 3 or 4 guys on him. At the end of the day, Sergey had 13 charges against him, including resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer, although he never hit the officer, but only approached him in a threatening manner with his fists clenched, the report says. "I'm the only one who was assaulted," Sergey said. "I am the only one who bled." They tore his tank top to shreds, and one of the policemen complained in the police report that he soiled his clothes with Sergey's blood. How absurd it is, I thought, that the person who never hit anyone is charged with assault, while those who beat him up face no consequences. Sometimes I feel like Sergey's life is a ticking time bomb, like our happiness with him is going to be short-lived and every evening might be our last. Every time he doesn't immediately text me back, I imagine he might be in the hospital again or in prison. He's the most dysfunctional person I ever met in my life. He's also happy, and his happiness rubs off on people around him. It rubs off on me. I haven't been depressed since meeting him, or does it only seem so? The day before yesterday, when I came to see him, he announced, "I married 2 women today. One of them was a girl in a bathing suit on Plum Island Beach. She was fishing and swinging her hips at Sergey, who didn't take his eyes off her.
I'm your girlfriend, and Julie's so blue."
He had a beautiful blue ring that he had purchased at Shaw's for 75 cents earlier that day, and he buried it in the sand on the beach and marked the spot with seashells. Sergey likes to bury his treasure in the ground and return to the spot later to dig it up. It's a game that children play. He still sleeps with his stuffed fox after all. I am not sure if the ring was for that girl, but at around midnight, when I was in his house, Sergey announced that we had to drive to Plum Island immediately. This was a few hours after telling me that he had to go to sleep early because he had a job interview at 9 in the morning. At midnight, the interview no longer mattered because he had to get to the beach to dig up the 75-cent ring. I had no choice but to agree because he begged and insisted, and after almost running out of gas, we were walking on cold sand with a big sky full of stars above our heads. "Look, the sky is so big," I said, gazing up. "I know," he agreed. "Do you want to have sex?" "No, it's too cold," I said. "I always wanted to have sex on the beach." He shared. "Maybe we can do it next summer when it's warmer." If we're still together next summer, I thought. Sergey found his spot and dug it up and found the 75-cent ring and put it on my finger as if it was meant for me and not for that other wife. He told me he actually already married me when he was 33 years old, the age of Christ. Sergey says a lot of things, and it doesn't really matter. Things he says come and go without consequence. After unearthing the ring, we drove back to his apartment, and I wanted to wash his greasy hair that hadn't been washed in many days. He really enjoys me washing his hair, but his bathtub was full of clothes that had been soaking there for 3 or 4 days. By the way, it's 1 in the morning right now, and this is what we're doing right now. How often do you wash all your clothes?
I try to do it once a week.
Really?
Yeah, all the good clothes I want to wash.
You only wear them once and then you wash them?
Yeah.
The police officer also said that Sergey tried to hurt himself in his cell by tying something around his neck. Why would he do such a thing? And that they took him to the hospital even though he wasn't hurt, but just because that's what they're supposed to do. "But he's mentally ill. He has a diagnosis," I said to the man in police uniform. But obviously his idea that bad people need to be punished for their bad behavior didn't fit in with the idea of a mentally ill person with a diseased brain. He obviously hates Sergey. I could feel that. I went to the hospital, but they would not let me see him, saying that only that they could neither confirm nor deny that he was there. Why is that the first thing they do when someone gets arrested is to take away their phone, their ability to communicate with their loved ones in time of need. Isn't that a most heartless, evil thing to do? Sergey's phone just rings, but there's no answer.